Hello everyone, welcome back to my Dante Must Die S rank video walkthrough. In this video, we'll finally get to play as the mysterious V. And let me tell you right now, if you came here expecting some high level V gameplay and strats, you ain't gonna get them. V is the one character in this game I'm not well versed with at all. And I wouldn't even say I'm well versed with Dante, but I'm better with Dante than I am V. And that is saying something because V in the right hands can be incredibly powerful. However, do Devil May Cry 5 players really come to Devil May Cry 5 for a character who is by default extremely powerful and is also extremely passive at the same time? So V is kind of the misfit of the bunch, where he's a summon-esque character. He's not a powerhouse like Nero, and he's not a jack of all trades, where he can do some amazing things like Dante. He is purely summon, and his physical capabilities by himself are extremely weak. He has two familiars, Shadow and Griffin. One for range and one for shadow. Sorry, one for melee. And I would say that if you want to get the most out of Griffin, which is your ranged character, you should bind him to the gun button, which in my opinion, the best button for the gun button is the back right trigger. So it allows you to constantly be charging him. However, now this can make things a small bit awkward for, let's say, activating Devil Trigger on Shadow, because I map my Devil Trigger to square on the PS4 controller. So getting the Devil Trigger to go off for Shadow can be a bit tough, but all I do is mouse them two buttons and it seems to work 90% of the time, so... and plus V, honestly, doesn't have that many gameplay sections compared to Dante or Nero. Not even Dante has that many gameplay sections, to be fair. Two of Dante's sections are boss fights, and that's it. And one of V's is a boss rush, so it's not like V has a whole lot of gameplay time. It is a lot to ask of the player to swap between three very different characters immediately. And the reason I'm not really talking about that fight in particular is because there's nothing really interesting about that fight. The best thing I can offer is constantly charge Griffin, or Griffin, it's Griffin, and taunt. In fact, if you could do it, if you've got the EX proc evasion taunt, do that, and then stand in a corner, turn the camera away from the enemies, and mouse the buttons. And that itself will jump you straight to SSS, and you'll have no problems at all getting the S rank in this mission. However, it's not necessary. As you saw there, from very little effort, I got 6,200 style points. Now, the enemy we're encountering here is 3 Hellbats and a Goliath. Now, the Hellbats are fine, if a bit awkward with V. However, the Goliath is where you'll see where V has problems. V has problems with good sustained damage. V can do very high damage, but the high damage depends, and I mean depends, on the familiars doing what you want them to do. And unfortunately in this game they don't really function as well as they should. Nightmare is the Devil Trigger, which is V's Devil Trigger, and he's just a big blob of shit, and he's not fun to use, and he's probably the worst thing in the game to control. Some of Nero's moves can be awkward, and Dante's Judgment ending combo can be very awkward. But Nightmare is a whole new stage of awkward to control. He is useless in most circumstances because you'll click the button, and I can give you iframes. This is very important to find out for later on, because especially in the Cavalier Angelo fight, you can get so many iframes. Because if he slows you down, you hit the Devil Trigger button, he goes straight into iframes, and those iframes are extended over his animation because you're slowed down. So he legitimately cannot deal damage to you for a long while. In fact, it pops up in my Cavalier Angelo video. Yes, the Goliath will start off armored. As you can see, I'm having a hard time breaking it. I thought I would have broke it by now and I could have moved on talking to the second form. I get hit. And look at the damage. This thing is a giant hitbox. And it shows. It's Devil Triggered, it's got a lot of health, and it does a lot of damage. And I don't know how I feel about this enemy. I don't really like it, but I don't think it's the worst enemy in the game. Don't worry, we will get to the worst enemy in the game soon. And now that it's broke its armor, it is a lot more aggressive and unpredictable. It is. You can parry it, funny enough. But look, Nightmare's actually doing work right now. Look at unlike Shadow just parried him. Up the triple S. And what am I doing right now? Oh, read the book, yes. V can also read a book. And what reading the book does is that it charges your Devil Trigger. And another thing to know about V is that his double trigger charges faster than anyone else's. And you may think this doesn't like mean a lot, because again, his double trigger is shit. However, you can also put your double trigger in Empower, Griffin, or Shadow, and it'll allow them to do more damage. It might make them invincible, or actually no, I don't believe it does, because I believe if they die during the double trigger, you actually get refunded the double trigger you put into them. So they do more damage, and they can also act independently. Which, in moments where you're trying to, like, let's say, control a large space or a lot of enemies, or even a boss, it can be a lifesaver. Just let them do their own thing. But V really, the only real like combo crazy options I can give you with V is use the R raid move with Griffin, which is back forward, and then whatever your shoot button is. I believe I misspoke. Mine is the left back trigger, not the right one. That is for reading the book. Hold back forward, and then the shoot button, and he'll charge up and let him get to the max charge, and then drop it. If that hits an enemy and hit them just right, you've seen it a few times. I'll point it out again when it happens. It will do ludicrous damage. Another thing is if you're just running around, you should be taunting, by the way. Now you should be taunting during these, during his familiar's attacks. It will boost your style significantly. I'm just not doing it for some reason. If you hold the button, see that attack just there now. See it's basically the shoot button. All you have to do is just hold the shooting, and he'll do kind of like a 5-pillar laser beam thing, and it's extremely good as well. It's got good reliable damage. It comes out relatively fast. That one just there, and it is AOE. It is very 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 good. And the last move with Griffin, I can like say that's a good one as well. The knock up, but the one move I would say is the hold back and then shoot move. It is very good as well. If you can crowd the enemies up, it does work. It does it does a lot of work for you because it hits so many times and it does decent damage if you let it charge to max. If you don't let it charge to max, it will do a lot less damage and it will be very very underwhelming. And V is one of those characters I feel like in the first playthrough, you is the worst hit. Normally I would say Dante's the worst because you really need all of Dante's moves to really get the full like experience as Dante, but V is hit so bad on the new game because he just doesn't do anything really on your first playthrough. And if you're on Dante Must Die, you have to have played through a few times. And there is a few stages, Mission 8 notably, that I will be using moves that are very expensive, like EX Provocation. I can't say that word. But that is, I would say, it's not necessary, but I have seen people have an extremely hard time with Mission 8, and EX Provocation will solve them problems entirely. I highly suggest getting at least one. If I could suggest getting one, I would say get Dante's, because Dante has a lot of more missions than Nero or V, which struggle for score. And the score actually hasn't been too bad. This was a second attempt because Nidhogg blew my tits off essentially. Nidhogg destroyed me, and it's because I haven't fought that boss in ages as V. There's really no excuse. Nidhogg isn't that bad, but stupid mistakes you call it, whatever. I can live with a few stupid mistakes because in the end of the day, it helps me become a better player. Even though this is pretty much probably my last full playthrough of Devil May Cry 5, and it's an experience because Devil May Cry 5 is a great game, but I feel like it is a game that, pardon me, that I have kind of left behind. It's not like it is an older game, and I have put 125 hours into this game, so. It's the same stuff over and over and over, and I don't mind it. I love getting better at these type of games, but I feel like at this stage I'm more or less done. Now, when the Virgil DLC drops, I will be happy to come back in, and that's actually that's gonna be my next project is the Virgil Dante Must Die S rank video walkthrough, but that'll come later. I want to quickly talk about this enemy. This enemy is called Nobody, and anyone that's played Devil May Cry 1 will see an instant resemblance to one of those enemies. Now, those enemies in Devil May Cry 1 are terrible and really annoying. They're fun enough, I guess, to fight if you know what you're doing, but they're hard. In this game, not so much. They do a lot of damage, and they can get really awkward if there's a few of them. But when there's one by themselves, it doesn't really seem like they do a whole lot. They have two phases, ranged or melee, and the mask determines which one. And as they're putting the mask on, you can parry it if you time your move correct, and basically knock it out of them. And if you knock both the masks off, it'll become super passive, like just there as you saw. He wasn't attacking or anything. He was just leaping backwards. He was constantly trying to put on a new mask because they can't attack without a mask on. So they're easy to exploit, but when they come in a group, which we'll see later on as V, they can get a wee bit tricky. Now these fights here, I'd advise you skip. I have 6,000 style points already. I don't need to fight anymore. I need to fight this one last fight with the Hell Judaka, and I'll talk about the Hell Judaka right now because he's a wanker. And there's no excuse for an enemy like this. This guy can ruin fights. In fact, he does ruin fights. He's just annoying. But it's this fight in the boss fight. Now, we'll talk about Nidhogg when I get to him. But this fight is important to talk about because I would advise you take care of the two. Um, well, leave the Judaka, Antrenors, that's it. Take care of the two Antrenors because they will catch you out. And lazily catch you out for no reason. You know, they just will. They're not that fun to juggle when there's a Judaka running around, potentially spawning more of them. And they do take a pounding on Dante Must Die, like, before they go down. There's the execute. If you time the execute correctly, you can get more. You can chain them. And now we're with the Hell Judaka. Now watch this. He doesn't seem too bad. He's taking damage. He's getting knocked up. It's fine. He did kill one of my familiars, but now this is where it gets ridiculous. If he decides to just piss off and run around, he will. There's one teleport. There's two teleports. And watch it go up. There's three teleports. Now, oh, there's four. Oh no, he just backdash, but oh no, there's four. And he does that. Like, this enemy has like he backdashed again. Why would you give this enemy iframes? And if you knock him down like that, he's got iframes on the knockdown when he hits the ground. I don't understand this enemy or the design behind this enemy at all. He doesn't have that many moves. His design is quite nice, but he's just boring to fight. He's extremely boring to fight because there's nothing interesting about him. And when he double triggers, my god, the beating he takes. It's just I don't know who designed this enemy. There's this and then Elo Angelo. Those two enemies have ridiculous HP pools, and I know they're meant to be kind of like late game enemies, and in this game, you know, on this difficulty, on Dante Must Die, with Dante Must Die health pools and with Dante Must Die damage, and then Devil Trigger on top of that, this is just a fucking cakewalk for them. This is where they thrive, and he spawns two more enemies, but I'm not too bad with that. Hell Karna or Kana, Hell Kana, and Antrenor actually aren't that bad to stay on. He finally dies. I've got the S rank. If I keep this S rank, I am pretty much guaranteed it because Nidhogg takes such a pounding. Well, he's not that bad for it, but you hit him so many times, and you should be able to get up to the S rank pretty easily. And there's 3 executes. You execute his tentacles, and that builds your style quite fast. There is no excuse to not get the S rank easily. But I think I get sloppily hit here by Hell Kana, of all things, which is embarrassing because the Hell Kanas, I love them. I think they're great. I think they convey a really good. They're like Devil May Cry 4 Scarecrows, but also like but without any of the blocking shit. Actually, sorry, they do block, and it kind of I understand why they block, but I think they're funner to fight than the Scarecrows. The Scarecrows are pushovers, but the Hell Kanas can catch out now again. I think they're very similar to the Devil May Cry 3 starter enemies. No, I don't take a hit there, by the way. So I held double S there for from the majority of the fight at the end there. And no, that wasn't a very good fight though, because it dropped from 6,000 stash points to like 581. 5,821, god. And it's not the greatest, but that is still more than enough for an S rank with the no continues, so I have to get no continues now. But you see, just with this boss, use Griffin's just charge move and it will build style for you. Like, I'm up to an A rank already and I've hit him with 2 moves. I don't understand this at all. I don't understand what they were thinking with V. And do maybe try and get Shadow involved a wee bit. I'm gonna try and use the pincer move here, which is back, forward, and melee on that tentacle. But watch what he does. He aims for the tentacle that's already dead. Shadow will be you'll need him and he'll be pissing up a fucking tree somewhere. He's not the greatest summon in the world. And I use Nightmare here, not for damage, but to get Griffin back. Because Griffin is necessary in this fight. Not because of the dodge, even though the dodge you got here, the double jump is insanely good. But you need him for the primarily for damage wise, because you need Griffin to do the lasers and stuff like that. Shadow can kind of cover that area, but not as effectively as Griffin can. in this fight. And normally I would say Shadow is your damage, and Griffin's kind of like the utility, you know, hits from the back line but hits kind of hard. Now watch, see Devil triggered Shadow with Pincer, some of the most damage in the game. He can compete with Nightmare's damage in that stage. It is insane. But Nightmare like, comes in very late, does his big animation, hits him with one laser. Not, hits and misses two lasers, hits him with one, and then I just have to make him disappear because he's wasting Devil Trigger doing that. It's shit. Nightmare just isn't good. Anyone who defends Nightmare doesn't really play these type of games that often or hasn't played it in the highest difficulty. Nightmare is just bad, and you can get on him and control him. But I've done that. I've tried to do that a lot of times. In fact, I tried to do it against the Behemoth at the start of the video. You'll watch me like jumping around trying to get on top of him, and he just would not let me on him. I do it in a later fight, in the next video or something like that, to a greater effect, and it's quite handy because you're invulnerable on his back, and you can kind of tank the enemies, and that you're familiar. Plus, when Nightmare's out, your familiars are invincible. This is extremely important to remember. So try and remember that type of stuff. Now, at this stage, I would advise you try and get all three of them down on the ground, because if you get all three of them down on the ground, and you execute them all, you can chain execute every single one of them, your style will go massive, and you can do massive damage to Nidhogg and to get stunned. I don't for some reason. Don't do what I'm doing, this is bad. Because suddenly it gets very, very, very busy where I am. There's Nightmare coming in, let's see if he does anything. He's standing around, I execute him. There he is, now this is a perfect opportunity, and I'm trying to get Pincer to come out with Shadow here, and he will not do it, because the camera orientation, it is beyond annoying. And I think I get it out here at the very end, and he misses. But that's just the name of the game, honestly. No, I don't even get it. Now, Nidhogg's Devil Trigger, but you don't really need to worry too much, because Nidhogg Devil Trigger doesn't really get that more HP. I don't know if this is a consensus, because it's V, and V lacks constant hard-hitting damage like the rest of the characters, but he's not that bad at all. I'd say he's one of the most balanced Devil Triggered bosses in the game. And that's saying something. A V boss is one of my favourite bosses. Even though the bosses in this game are severely lacking compared to the other games. And this is also something interesting. All his tentacles disappear. He shoots up. Now, I didn't know this could happen. 3 of him appear. And as you just saw, even when Devil Triggered, if you go back, look at the chunk of damage one Nightmare laser did. I didn't know that was possible. I don't know if that's a glitch or if that's meant to happen. But triple Nidhoggs appeared. And they all took independent damage that affected the boss's HP bar. If you can get that to happen, I don't know how I got it to happen, or if there's a certain way to to trigger it. Maybe it's in the final 10%. You could nuke this boss in his Devil Trigger, and it wouldn't matter how much defense he had or how much HP he had, you would nuke him, because you're basically doing triple damage. But that is the end of mission 4 with V, and 2 A's, but the 1.2 times no continue. Get you the S rank. So anyway guys, thanks very much for watching, and hope to see you guys in the next video. Take care now.